that in case you can push on.
Okay, good morning. I'll call to order the September 7th, 2021 regular meeting of the Haywood County Board of Commissioners. Our first order of business will be our Pledge of Allegiance, and after that, we usually have our invocation, but Pastor Josh got hung up in some traffic this morning, and so he's not going to be able to be here, so we'll have a moment of silence after the pledge. So if everyone please stand for the pledge. Thank you. Okay, our next order of business will be a public comment session. Would anyone care to address the board this morning? Okay, seeing no one, I'll move on to constituent concerns. Bryant, did you want to make some comments?
I'll just give a quick overview of what we're doing as far as recovery after the storm.
Okay.
Everyone knows last Thursday we met and we put in a contract for SDR. Actually, I guess it's about 10 days ago.
Yeah, speaking to that a little bit. I can't.
I'm sorry. So we have a contract with SDR for the debris cleanup along the right-of-way. That's going well. I think Clyde was kind of its first area to take care of, and they made big progress there. I know Friday they were actually working in Crusoe. That's going to be the bulk of the work. So bear with us as the cleanup goes forward. We've also asked help for stream cleanup through both the EWP, Emergency Watershed Protection Program, and FEMA. So hopefully we get some news this week about stream debris cleanup, and we'll have more to tell folks about how we plan on going forward with that. The other thing is we're working on housing. I've asked Patsy to be here today to where she could talk about what they've done as far as fundraising, working with Baptist on a Mission and the Rapid Repair Program. So I'll ask Patsy to give an overview of what they've done.
Okay. Thanks for coming, Patsy.
Well, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to update you on housing, and a personal thank you to all of you. I've seen you out on the battlefield and out working, and talked to Brandon on Sundays and Bryant 7 days a week, I think. So I appreciate, as a resident of Haywood County, all your leadership, because I know you're working hard. On day one following the floods, we immediately opened our Section 8 rental assistance list to help flood victims. We don't have all the waivers that we need from HUD to expedite those vouchers, but to date we have worked with 57 flood victims in our community. Some of those are Section 8, some of them are not, some are in shelter, some are not. But in partnership with United Way, who's done an amazing job collecting money, we have been able to secure a lot of resources to help people overcome the barriers for housing. And a lot of those barriers will be deposits. The deposits are running between $1,500 and $1,700 per unit in our community. We're also very much slowed down because of the lack of available rentals in our community. But we are making progress, and we are rehousing folks. Again, it's slow, but we've also done a tremendous amount of other things with the donations that we've been able to secure with United Way. We've helped people get back to their homes in special situations. We've done several loads of gravel, road repair, anything that we could think of to help people get back in their home. As of Friday, I'm happy to announce, I told Bryant that we had identified 6 rental units. We actually identified 10 on Friday, did 10 referrals from the shelter to get people rehoused out of that shelter. So that was very positive progress, and we're hoping, got our fingers crossed, that we're going to hear from lots of folks today to get them moved to the next level of recovery. In addition, when Brian asked me to join the Baptist on Mission meeting, I quickly realized that was the best game in town, and just instantly knew what a great person Bill Martin was, now known as Bill the Baptist, and just thought we really need to support that. So in partnership again with United Way, we launched an effort for housing champions in our community to sponsor those rapid rehab jobs. I'm so happy to report that over the weekend we confirmed house number 30 that has been sponsored and resources raised for, that's in addition to what the county does. So we've raised enough money to have 30 houses done under our effort with United Way. And that's basically the update that we have. Continuing to work hard, and we'll do everything we can to help the county and help our flood victims be rehoused and on the road to recovery.
Okay. Somebody have any questions?
How many people do we still have in shelters?
Ira's not here. I think this morning we had 43 still housed there. We actually had folks out there this morning starting to already work on relocating folks. But Ira's really the better person to answer that. But
Okay.
My understanding was we have 43. David may know that as well. 43 families still housed at the lake.
Travis probably has some up-to-date numbers, and I'll just say thanks to Mountain Projects for the housing, but also late last week we started working with them. They're going to be the caterer of helping feed the folks in the shelter. So it's great to really have Patsy and all of the folks in our community to step up and fill roles that they normally wouldn't have. So
We're happy to try to help. We'll continue to try to help. Do you mind if I ask Celisa just for a minute to give an update on the money?
Yeah, I was going to have
raised?
Celisa come up. Yeah. Thanks for coming this morning, Celisa.
Thank you for having me and for your confidence in United Way that we will do the right thing and that we will use the money wisely that's been coming into our county. So far to date, we have $737,765 that has come in. Out of that, $350,000 will go out for the rapid rehousing. So we intend to continue our partnership with Mountain Projects to help with deposits and first month's rent, the gravel, all those other things that will help people get back in their homes if they're able to. And thank you very much for your support.
Hey, Celisa, are y'all helping anybody with bridges?
No, I don't think so. We have helped with gravel to get people back in if they can,
Right.
But as far as culverts and gravel, culverts and bridges, I think that's beyond us at this point. I'm hopeful that we'll get some federal aid for that.
Well, I appreciate you guys stepping up. That's an amazing number, 100,000, so that's great.
That was a lot to do with the Canopy Housing Foundation that gave us the large grant, but we've had some other large grants as well.
Yeah, okay. I've noticed on WLOS they advertise that quite often as news stories and stuff, and so that's great.
That was an incredible gift to this community to have
Yes.
WLOS cover that. It was uncomfortable for me at times, but it was a great thing for our community to see the need.
Well, thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Travis.
To address the shelter question, I think Patsy was referring to the number of families. I think it was around 40. The actual number of shelterees is right at 101 as of this morning. Those are sheltered between Lake Junaluska, the Days Inn, and Hearth and Home Inn. To go back for a little bit of an update as far as the response, going back to the rescue efforts. We had 1,630 folks on the ground helping over a 2-week period for the most part during the actual rescue portion of our response. Those came from 99 different agencies from around the southeast. During the rescue phase, we have over 78 citizens that were documented to have been rescued, along with 23 pets. Again, those were documented rescues. There were others that occurred. Those were accomplished, provided by local fire departments, local law enforcement, and then our mutual aid folks that came in from the outside to lend us a hand. Looking at a few other numbers, the North Carolina Forest Service bridge crews have constructed 6-foot bridges as replacements to some of these private bridges that were washed out so folks could have access, at least walking, to their residence. We've had 1,500 plus calls to the call center, the flood relief hotline that the county set up here. Those calls consist of shelter requests, urgent needs, damaged property reports, and offers to volunteer and offers to donate. That's been a key to some of the success as far as having a key local number for folks to contact to get the resources that they need. Going back a little bit of damage assessment, this is a cumulative number. This is not just building inspections, but this is a cumulative number for everybody that's participated in damage assessments, from American Red Cross to the Baptist to our actual search and rescue teams that were on the ground initially, using a couple different programs. It's 687 properties affected. That's not all houses. Those are properties that have been affected by the flood. There's a little over 100 that have been damaged or beyond repair, destroyed. It looks like right at 1,000 damage inspections actually completed. 20 North Carolina Department of Transportation bridges with moderate to major damage. 3 DOT bridges completely destroyed. Current counts, 76 private bridges and 39 culverts reported damage by private citizens. Those are, again, private bridges, private culverts. I think our debris count this morning, or at least as of last night, was about 340 loads. I don't know the exact amount as far as the cubic tons. Rolling through my numbers here, I think some of our biggest concerns still going forward are debris in the waterway. Those still range from campers to what's left of cars, to folks' homes, and those are still in those waterways. So that's, as Bryant mentioned, we've been working hard on pushing that forward, and that's going to be a key part of this process, is getting those waterways safe to where we don't have an issue later on with flooding, as well as the environmental impacts that they pose. Those are big key factors, and then getting folks' lives back together. That's where we stand right now, and if you have any further questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay. Somebody have any questions?
I don't know that I have a question for Travis, but what about FEMA? What have we heard about FEMA, if anything?
The latest official request went from the state to FEMA, and they've had inspectors out on site from the public assistance area as well as individual assistance. And so met with them last week, and they said the numbers looked good, meaning that the numbers are bad because of the dollar amount threshold we need to get to. So I'm hopeful that we hear something in the next week to 10 days about FEMA. We're following all of the protocol that will make sure that everyone can get reimbursed for those costs that are reimbursable. The state EM folks have said they think we'll get the declaration, and so I'm optimistic. There's nothing in there that says we aren't going to get the declaration, but I've not been through one of these, so I'm relying on the information from State EM, and I think it's generally positive that we'll get some news from FEMA.
So if, last time we had the floods, FEMA came in and, of course, bought the folks' houses out that were in the flood zone or newly determined flood zone, because we've got, obviously, the maps are going to be a little bit different now. And so a lot of those homes were removed from there, and then people were relocated. So without FEMA here now, what's being done in regards to that? I mean, is there control on how, or not necessarily control, but are people being advised that you might not want to replace the home in this particular area? Because, I mean, all you got to do is watch the weather for a little while nowadays, and you can go, things are a little bit different than they used to be as far as rains, and this is probably not the last one for this year. So,
yeah, and by all accounts, the mitigation process took properties out of people living there and saved lives in this last storm. So I don't know what the direction from either FEMA or EWP will be as far as the mitigation, but that's a big piece of it. We don't want this to happen. We want to get properties away from the river, so not just loss of property, but loss of life will be protected going forward. And we met with the EWP folks late last week, and we've sent the request in, and I think they'll start work, but it's not going to be a quick process to get all of that mitigation completed. I think last time it took a couple of years, and we're in for that length of time as well. Our real focus is getting the stream cleaned up for those debris piles that are still there that could cause loss of property or life if, it's hurricane season, if we get another one. We've got that emergency step we want to take, get those out of the stream, and then the mitigation efforts can come back and happen over some time as we move along.
That's a very good question. I've had several residents ask me personally if there's any way we can get fair compensation for our house. We want to move out here. Some of them has had this 3 times in 17 years, and maybe they weren't willing to take the buyout last time, but this time they say, we want to move to high ground. We're tired. We're done with this. You'll make a greenway or a soccer field out of this property. I think the sooner those people can get word on that, the better, because they don't need to be spending money on something that they may want to forfeit anyway.
I will say that the next few weeks will be crucial to answering some of those questions y'all have as far as mitigation goes. Once we hopefully get word from FEMA and that turns on, as Bryant said, mitigation's kind of toward the end of the piece of the puzzle in putting all this back together. But I can personally attest that the mitigation conversations have been had with the state and already looking at what we can do as far as mitigation. But we've said several times, it's unfortunately a marathon and not a sprint. I'm really good at running sprints, but it's going to take some time, and hopefully everybody understands that it's going to be a process, and it's not going to be a quick process, but it'll be a thorough one and a fair one.
Is it typical that FEMA is delayed, like it seems to have been delayed here? Because we know that with immediately following Fred impacting us, there was an issue in Tennessee and also up north, and it seemed that FEMA was in place much quicker than they have been here. That's the question I'm getting all the time, is why has it been delayed?
I think it's a bit unfair to equate what happened in Crusoe to Tennessee or certainly Ida, and I didn't realize this. Each state has its own threshold that it has to hit based on population for destruction, and I really didn't keep up with the storm in Tennessee, but I think it was much wider spread. and the numbers were clear that they got over whatever threshold number that they had, and it's probably less than 15 million because Tennessee has less folks in it than North Carolina. So I'm guessing that was part of it, in an urban setting or something like that where there are really expensive buildings destroyed and you rack up those dollars very quickly. This took a lot of groundwork to see if we hit that $15 million threshold. And it even included road repair that DOT invested to get to that number. Also, I don't know how Tennessee works, so we followed the guidelines of State EM. They really know what they're doing. This kind of stuff happens in North Carolina so often because of the coast, and so they've been very thorough. And they also wanted us to get over the 15 million threshold. If FEMA disallows some of the costs, that we would still be over 15 million. So they were very logistical in how they approached this, that they wanted to get all of the data, and when they sent it up, they felt good about the numbers. So I'm hopeful that we hear something in, like I said, the next week or 10 days. And I know it's, for the folks that have lost everything, it seems like it's taken incredibly a long amount of time, and I'm sure the days are longer every day it goes.
It seems like to me that the state buyout was, I mean, the buyout for properties was from the state, I think, last time. Maybe they got the federal money from the feds, but the state kind of handled that. And, Crusoe last time was hit, but not as severely as it was this time. And so hopefully there'll be houses that got hit this time that'll be able to be bought out. I hope that program comes back, because it really helped. You could tell in Clyde and even Canton to some extent that the properties weren't there anymore to get flooded out that did last time. So they got bought out and people moved to higher ground. So, but Tommy, to your point, that's I can see how people would just be probably needing to do something else. Well, Crusoe is one of those communities where all the level land is along the river, and that's where the floodplain is. Yeah, it kind of rises up from there. So, anybody have any other questions this morning? No. I had questions about the private bridges, and I thought I heard you say the Forest Service was helping folks maybe with those.
The Forest Service has been assisting and pretty much taking care of putting in footbridges, which
footbridges?
Yeah,
okay.
They're footbridges for folks to still have access to their properties. Okay. The private bridges, obviously we're looking at it and it's on the radar. There's just a few more hoops that we've got to jump through to hopefully get people connected to some help with those. That's all still in process and no guarantees, but we're trying to work toward that. Okay.
Yeah, I talked to a gentleman, and he had a bridge, and he didn't have a home there, but he had livestock, and that's how he got to his livestock to take care of them and everything. So he was curious about how that process might work. So I appreciate the info.
Yeah, and I'll say a little bit more there to what Bryant said, talking about how and why FEMA has already declared certain areas disasters. Bryant hit that spot on. You're talking about 3/4 of the state in Louisiana that got impacted.
Yeah.
It's real easy to do the math when you start looking at 3/4 of the state with destruction as compared to, a very important community, but still a small community relative to size. And it comes out to mathematical formulas and making sure that we get those right for when the state pushes that request up, that, we don't have to go back and backtrack and then delay the process even longer getting it corrected.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I know in Tennessee, for instance, a lot of those were commercial areas, so it was like, there's more than $15 million, And in Louisiana, New Orleans, of course, there's more than $15 million. But up in Crusoe, it's mostly a small private area. And so I can see how that would take a little bit more time to get all that added up. Anybody have anything else to ask?
I'll just add one thing. I know that what the other commissioners have mentioned and commented on, that's probably the biggest cause that I've felt it as well, is when is FEMA going to come in? So I appreciate you explaining all that. I know that a lot of our folks are eager to get back in their homes, and the calls I'm getting are, can I rebuild my home, you know, or do I wait on FEMA? What do I do? You know, I'm wanting to get back in, so I appreciate you explaining that. And just a comment, I want to thank you guys again, Patsy and United Way, for what you guys are doing. I know that Patsy and Si was out, boots on the ground, as soon as the flooding stopped. So we appreciate you and Mountain Projects and United Way. And Travis, you and your crew, it's been nonstop, you know, no days off, no hour off. So I guess you're getting truly tested for being the director at this time, but we appreciate all you guys.
I've got one other question, just to be definitive, you know, just not leaving it hanging out there. If somebody came and asked today, do I build my house back? Do I need to put $40,000 into this? When I'd be willing to sell it if FEMA were to buy me out, or the EWP program, and I could move out of this floodplain so I don't have to do this again. What's the answer? What do you tell them?
Patience right now. I wouldn't want to direct somebody to go either direction this early on in the process for fear of telling them incorrectly. Be patient. Like I said, hopefully in a couple weeks we'll have more definitive answers for those folks. But unfortunately, I don't want to say either way, just so I don't steer somebody wrong and hurt somebody's livelihood at this point. But again, next couple of weeks, hopefully we'll be able to answer those questions more solidly and accurately.
That's the best we can do.
I mean, I've even had, you know, Baptist men as groups have wanted to come in and actually rebuild somebody's home, and they've actually told them no, you know, to hold off because they're not sure they're going to be able to build back. So I guess what you're saying is patience is the virtue here. And it's smart thinking, you know, they don't want the Baptist men's group to come in and spend $17,000 and rebuild a home that's eventually going to be torn down. So just in that waiting game right now, and I guess patience is a virtue. And I also wanted to add our county staff. I thanked Mountain Projects and Travis, but I know Bryant and Chris and David, seen them out on Sundays as well and Saturdays, and trying to make sure everything's took care of. And I know our sheriff's department and just our whole county staff. I have been blown away at the support that we've had, and them willing to take care of things. So thank you to everybody.
Just to follow up on Brandon, I know all the elected leaders have been here on up the ladder, and I've been in contact with some of them since then, and they all still sound very positive. They're going to do all they can to help, but again, it may be a while. You know, that's a hard answer to give somebody, but the wheels of progress turn slow, and they are all, you know, very supportive of our situation and give us good positive feedback. So just wanted to add that. Again, say thank you to everybody that's went far and above the call of duty on this. And I've had several conversations, and I know the tragic loss of life in Tennessee. It was terrible, but really and truly, if there's a blessing in this whole thing, it happened at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. If it had been 3 o'clock in the morning, we could have possibly lost 100 people. There could have possibly been that many people. We lost communications. Cell tower went out on Sugar Top. Fiber optic pulled apart. You know, we had trouble with that for a few days after the flood. And if we couldn't have got word out to those people, if they'd been asleep 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, it would have been tragic. It would have been even more tragic than it was. And I hate to lose anybody, but there is a little silver lining in that it came at the time of day it did. And if it came in the wee hours of the morning, we may have lost some emergency people that were imperiling themselves in darkness trying to save people, and it could have been exponentially worse. So just want to add that.
Okay. Well, Travis, I know you had COVID and you're having to deal with that, and you're having to deal with the flood, so you guys, appreciate y'all.
And COVID's still
Yeah,
very
it's still
prevalent out
raging.
there. We're overrun with it. Our paramedics are worked ragged. Our ambulance staff work ragged, and your nurses working in the facilities are all, and on all healthcare really, from CNAs to all those folks. They're being worked to the bone right now, and they really need everybody's thoughts and prayers and support.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Okay. And Brandon and Tommy, I know that a lot of those people in that community know you guys, and I appreciate y'all. I know y'all have probably been working overtime too to try to get information out to them. And I think it's really helped because they can call you guys and find out, you can explain the curfew and all those things that we've had to do. So I feel like it's been good information for people to have you guys there for them. Okay. Does anybody have any other constituent concerns this morning? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to administrative agency reports and presentations. We don't have any of that this morning. I don't have any discussion or adjustment to the agenda. Does anybody have? Go ahead, Brian. Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
That's okay.
On the consent agenda, number 9 is an appropriation of fund balance for some radio equipment to finish phase 1. Typically, this should be under regular agenda because it's an appropriation of fund balance, and I'd like to draw your all's attention to taking money out. It's just oversight on my part that it was left on consent. I can explain it to you, or you can pull it to regular, but I did want to highlight that one. Should have been on that portion of the agenda.
Okay. Why don't we move on to the consent agenda, and I'll just let you go ahead and explain number 9, and then if anybody has any questions about any of the other items, we can do that. So go ahead.
So you remember, year before last, we appropriated about, I think, $570,000 to upgrade our towers to a simulcast microwave system. All of that equipment's been ordered, installed, but upon the installation, we found out that we needed actually 2 more microwaves, one from Setzer and on the other on Chambers, because we weren't getting a good path. And so based on the testing, we need to add this $50,000 to complete the program.
Okay. So Setzer is in Maggie Valley, and then Chambers is in Clyde. So that's where those are located.
Mr. Moorhead, do you know the timeline on that? I mean, if we order it now, how long it'll take to get here and how long it'll take to install?
I do not, but I'll certainly ask Shanda how long it will take, and hopefully it didn't sound like it was very hard, but I don't know if it's 2 days or 3 weeks. I'll find out and get you some information.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're not looking at months or anything like that. Probably just looking at a few weeks maybe.
That's not my understanding, no.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, does anybody have any other questions about anything on the consent agenda? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to the regular agenda. The first item of the regular agenda is the request approval for a budget amendment from the Public Schools Capital Outlay Buildings 1.593719 million to reappropriate remainder of proceeds for renovation of the central administration offices. The project was budgeted in the general fund in 2021 and work has not yet been completed, so the unspent balance will roll into fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. So go ahead.
Well, that pretty much sums it up, but this is the balance of what's left in the central office remodel, which is what we call Annex 2. We barely got started, I think, about March or April, so there was quite a bit of work still to be done. We didn't finish it. It rolled into fund balance, so we're just reappropriating that money. And this money was from the $2 million loan for the school system that we got through BB&T.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Christian?
Thank you.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 1 of the regular agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion at all? That was a quiet second there, Jim.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, and then item 2 of the regular agenda is to request approval to award the bid for a full body scanner detection system to OD Security North America in the amount of $125,750 for the Haywood County Detention Center. And we have our Chief Deputy here this morning. Welcome, Jeff.
Good morning, Commissioners. Come before you today to ask that you accept the award the bid that was produced by OD Security North America for a full body scanner to be utilized in the detention center. This has been up probably 3 different times, 3 different occasions, and has been bypassed for different reasons, fully supported by the commissioners as well too. But at this point, the fortunate part to that is that the bids came in much lower than what they originally were thought to be. At this point, we recommend that OD Security North America be the company for lots of different reasons. One, because they're a U.S.-based company. They provide and guarantee 1 day on-site support. They provide 3 days of on-site hands-on training at the start once it's installed, and also they assist with the state of North Carolina. We have to go through the same process that a medical facility would in order to be certified to be able to utilize the X-ray scanner machines for the radiation levels and so forth. So they will help us along with that process through DENR as well too, and provide that where the other companies did not. And they provide one thing which is very appealing is it's delivered and installed within 30 days of approval, which is huge for us. It also provides the smallest radiation safety footprint in the market, and they utilize medical grade instead of industrial grade X-ray or radiation exposure, I suppose you could say. We have spoken to Haywood Regional Medical Center, and they go under the same certifications that would qualify here as well too. So their assistance, they have said they will assist as well too in conversation with the radiation department, and the technical support comes along with that, and it meets all compliance with state and federal regulations. They're one of 3 companies that are allowed to operate within the state of North Carolina currently.
Jeff, I was wondering, so what exactly does this do? This keeps drugs and other things out of the detention center, correct?
It is, and it would be placed right in the intake area in the detention center, and it's to identify weapons, illegal substances, and contraband, and so forth. On a person, obviously they're searched under the 4th Amendment of the Constitution. They're searched, but there's only so many things that can happen, and people have the ability to be very innovative in how they conceal different things. And we've had issues with overdose issues within the detention facility where people have brought in controlled substances and so forth, and this gives us the ability to recognize those. They're in operation in probably a half dozen other counties within the state of North Carolina, very successful to this point, have been able to mitigate a lot of issues, and obviously if someone brings narcotics into a facility, it's a felony charge as well too, but it's also a substantial risk to the populace, person bringing it in, but also the other people as well too, to include weapons and any other kind of potential contraband.
Probably save time for you guys too, I guess.
Very much so, especially in the transportation in, and it would not just be used for people just coming into intake when they first come into the detention facility, but they go out to court, come back into court. It's very much like an airport security line. You can walk them straight through, and if there's a need to pull them aside, then we can certainly do that. If we need to receive any medical assistance, then there's protocol for that as well too that would be dealt with Haywood Regional Medical Center.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Jeff?
I don't have any questions. Jeff's being real nice and discreet about the use of this, but as opposed to doing a body cavity search, this is a much better option and probably safer for
Yes, sir.
Uh,
the officers as well as the inmates.
My first day on the commissioner job, I spent with the sheriff, and Mr. Moorhead and I had a very detailed discussion about what this will bring light to, so to speak. So it very much is needed, and it protects you guys as well as the inmates. So I think it's a good thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments?
You did say that came in below budget, below the bid?
Yes,
mark?
sir. Yes, sir, it did.
We needed some good news today.
Absolutely, yes, sir. That it did.
Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 2 of the regular agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Jeff. Appreciate it. Okay, our next order of business is appointments and then closed session, and we have none. So, and then our next order of business is adjournment. Does anybody have any other business before the board tonight, this morning? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. We adjourn.
So move.
A second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Everybody be safe.